Chris, in discussing eschatology, the study of the ultimate things, most conversation is always about the resurrection or transformation of human beings, souls, if you believe in that. But what about the creation, all that we see in the universe, in animals, and all of the other things that exist? Is this part of Christian theology?
Oh, definitely. We don't get a lot of hint about this in the Bible, but there are certainly some compelling indications that the whole cosmos is to be transformed, that the whole cosmos benefits from the reconciliation effected in Christ, yes.
So what does that mean? If we look at the cosmos today, we see certainly a lot of disorder, a lot of chaos. Will things be different if we have a transformation, if we look up into the sky, or just does any of that make sense?
It's very difficult to picture what this transformed state will be, because we live in a universe characterized by change and decay, and to imagine, therefore, a state of being in which there is no suffering or decay is very, very hard for us. But that, I believe, to be the Christian promise.
And that is not just referring to human beings, it's referring to everything. I mean, if there's a transformation, there'll be transformations of inanimate things?
Well, again, it is hard to picture this, and I'm not at all sure how the inanimate world will be transformed. So I'm not at all clear exactly how the inanimate world will be transformed, but what I think there are very good reasons to suppose is that this transformed state will contain not only human life, but also other creatures as well, animals, birds, and so forth.
And what will that world, will that just be the earth, or will it go beyond the earth?
Oh, I think the Christian vision is of a cosmic transformation, not just a transformation of the earth.
And so the creatures, in addition to human beings, will be on the earth, but what about all the vast reaches of the universe that we know today, so dwarf the earth in terms of perspective and numbers?
Well, when we contemplate the rest of the universe, we see a place of extraordinary beauty, and I would imagine that scale and beauty would also be part of God's redeemed cosmos. Of course, we don't yet know what sorts of life there are in other contexts, but they too surely would know this form of transformed existence from which suffering and decay had been eliminated.
So in the theology that you believe, other life forms, other sentient life forms, conscious life forms are freely admissible into your worldview, yes?
Oh, yes, and I think that for three sorts of reasons, really. One, because there are hints of it in the Bible. One, because I think it would be a very impoverished, redeemed world for humans to live in if there was not community with other life forms. But I also believe this because of the extent of the suffering that there is among living things in this world, and I believe that God will provide a fulfilled existence for creatures that have suffered in this world.
But if there are other worlds with other sentient creatures, will their transformation be according to the Christian transformation on this earth? you can't have multiple transformations of the entire universe. If it's a universal transformation, you can't have a lot of them. So I assume you have to have one. Do we control all the rest?
I think this is a very difficult problem which theology is starting to come to terms with as the data on extraterrestrial life starts to emerge. But I think a Christian theologian has to start from the presumption that Christ's action in this world is the hinge of cosmic time, is the beginning of the redeemed process for the whole universe. We'd have to work from there in the light of whatever came up later, but that is the primary Christian confession and where we'd have to start, yes.
And therefore that one event here would have implications for everyone else, no matter where they are, even if they have no idea that there is an earth.
Yes, I mean, it's an extension of what theologians call the scandal of particularity, that the crucifixion and rising of one human being, one Palestinian 2,000 years ago, is nevertheless an event for all life and for all time.
And for all universe, all life, all time, not just on this earth.
And for the whole cosmos, I believe, yes.
Good. Even if others don't even know that.
Yeah.
So they're struggling with what it's all about, and they don't even have Jesus to help them along.
Well, they have whatever revelation God has provided in that place and the work of God's Spirit. I mean, not knowing these life forms, one wouldn't be able to tell how that would work out. But Christian belief is in a self-revealing, self-communicating God.
When we have this transformation, what happens to it then? Is it stagnant? I don't mean stagnant in a bad way, but is it this one singular beatific vision that one has on a permanent basis, either atemporally or statically? Or is there progress or things happen after that?
Well, I'm fond of telling my students that I hope there'll be theology seminars in heaven. And I think it is difficult for us to imagine this because so many of the things that make human life so fulfilling are temporal things. Music, for example, relies on time. Conversation relies on time. And so it's hard to imagine that a static heaven would be all of what God would want for creatures.
That implies that God, in God's own self, is not static in some way that classic theology had God. Unmovable, impassible, unaffected, but in time.
Yes, I think that classical theology was too fearful of the notion of change in God, and I think it's possible to formulate a doctrine of God which accepts that God's experience of the created world continues to enrich God's life and God's relationships.
And you would see that continuing after the transformation?
Yes, I see no reason not to, yeah.